The leaders of China and India have held their first direct meeting for 5 years after ending a long-running border dispute. President Xi Jinping met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a summit of the BRICS group of nations in Russia. Relations between the two countries had been frosty since troops from both sides were killed in a clash in the Himalayan region of Ladakh in 2020. The BRICS organisation, which originally centred on China, India and Russia, also includes 6 other emerging economies. So does being the largest economy at the BRICS table mean China sets the bloc's direction? Well, Rorry Daniels is Managing Director of the Asia Society Policy Institute.
I think China would like to set the bloc's agenda. Size matters, but so does momentum. And I think that when you look at the glue that holds the BRICS grouping together, what really categorized and catalyzed this grouping of nations is that they were all developing countries in different stages of development. As China kind of completes its industrialization, as it moves up the economic value chain, it remains to be seen if it has that same agenda-setting power in an institution that's primarily aimed at developing and industrializing countries.
And what does China want from being part of this group?
I think China does want to have that agenda-setting power. I think it wants options in the international arena. When it looks at its major risks overseas, even including in terms of trade and investment, what it sees is the developing world closing off avenues that are really successful for China's domestic economy, but perhaps have negative effects on the more global scale of trade and investment. So I think China wants options. It does want to have its issues at the table. It does want to show that it can bring nations together. And ultimately, it does want to be able to have a place to go if Western institutions decide that it's no longer fit for purpose in the international trading system. And I think a lot of the BRICS countries also want those options. It's one of the reasons why we see outcomes from the summit that include trading in local currencies or even setting up a special currency for BRICS members to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and the global financial system dominated by the US and other Western countries.
And just a word on that, this notion of BRICS as an alternative to the Western-dominated economic system, or indeed G7. How successful has it been? You said there have been talks about developing alternatives to the dollar. Any actual movement on that?
The BRICS countries are trading more in their own currencies, but not yet at a scale that would challenge the dominance of the dollar. Again, I see it as an option and probably not the best option in a system that's so completely dominated by the US dollar and by trade in dollar-denominated goods. But there's been some limited success and success that I think this grouping would like to build on. I think that type of option generation is also very attractive to the countries in the global South, who often see their levels of development as incompatible with major trade and investment from Western and developed nations.
Okay. Away from BRICS, but at BRICS, President Xi said today there must be no further escalation and no widening of the battlefield in Ukraine. How do you interpret that statement?
Well, I'm kind of disappointed in it. I mean, to me, it seems like the bare minimum statement that Xi Jinping could make. I think that it probably aligns with Russian interests in not escalating or widening the conflict. Obviously, Russia would prefer to fully win this conflict in Ukraine. But at the moment, I think that they see it grinding to a bit of a halt. And so it's unclear to me if the Xi Jinping statement, how coordinated it was with Vladimir Putin and with Moscow in general. But it seems to me that it's not enough for China to say we shouldn't widen or we shouldn't escalate, that there really needs to be a momentum and a push for more negotiations to actually end the war, and not just to do no harm by not making it worse.
Thanks for guiding us through that. Rorry Daniels from the Asia Society Policy Institute. Thank you so much.